As you can see, the title of my talk is Cinema and Art Gallery and Intermedial Symbiosis. First, I will briefly introduce the project of which the lecture is a part. Then I will try to explain what the cinema and art gallery theme has to do with intermediality issues. Finally, I will put my thoughts in a cultural sociological context. First of all, I want to point out what my talk is not about. It will not be about film and painting in the narrower sense. Painted films of the avant-garde in Europe before and in America after the Second World War, or animated films, will not matter. The appearance of paintings in films, for example in Otto Preminger's Laura or Alfred Hitchcock's Rebecca, both from 1944, or in quite a different way in Jean-Luc Godard's Passion from 1982, has been treated like films with artist biopics of famous painters, often very extensively and competently. Instead, my talk will be about the relationship between two institutions, the cinema on the one hand and the picture gallery or art museum on the other. The question is from when and why the film as a mobile mediator between cinema and picture gallery more and more often makes its stories or actions play in picture galleries, where its heroes have appointments or which they cross in the run. After all, one must ask why the cinema itself is becoming a kind of art gallery and why picture galleries turn out more and more as a cinema hall, making films an integral part of their program. My starting point is the more or less surprising observation that art galleries have rarely been used as a scene of action in films up to the 1960s, with a few exceptions. René Clément's black and white film Gervaise from 1956 contains a wonderful sequence in the Louvre, and we regret that we do not see the colorful splendor of the paintings which fascinate a group of proletarian visitors of the 19th century. Hitchcock's film Blackmail from 1929 ends in a chase through the British Museum, not through the picture gallery, but through the halls of the sculpture collection and the library. In 1945, in Rossellini's film Paisa, partisans run through the halls of the Florentine Uffizi, but the halls are totally empty because of the war. Only since the middle of the 1960s appear the first galleries with their pictures in films, and have since strongly increased. At present, it can be said that films of all categories, media and genres, romantic comedies, action films, horror films, but also series, analog and digital, have multiple connections to art galleries. Remakes of older black and white films, which do not have any relation to picture galleries, transfer in their opulent color versions parts of their plot, for instance, into the New York Metropolitan or Guggenheim Museum, to the Berlin Alte Nationalgalerie, or again and again to the Paris Louvre. I give you some examples, but I must first apologize for my offer of almost exclusively German versions. My people whom I talk to are German, and so and in Germany we are used to see foreign films in German language in the cinema. It's quite comfortable. Based on the novella by Marcel Aimé, Le Passe-Muraille from 1943, there is a German film by Ladislao Weida from 1959, The Man Who Walks Through the Walls, with the then popular German actor Heinz Rühmann. In this black and white film, the hero is particularly interested in jewels and money, which he can steal easily from the bank. In the French color version, made by Dante Desartes in 2016, the hero prefers to steal paintings from a picture gallery. How is this change of heart? The 13-part then famous French series Belphégor, or The Secret of the Louvre from 1965 in black and white, is located in the catacombs of the Egyptian department of the Louvre, where Hitchcock already staged the persecution of his extortionist in Blackmail from 1929. No painting, far and wide. The color remake of Belphégor by the same director, Claude Barmer, in 201, now shows ghosts haunting the galleries of the Louvre and eventually being freed from the paintings in which they were enclosed.
Kein Grund zur Aufregung. Als damals die Klimaanlage kaputt ging, da haben Sie das auch gesagt. Und trotzdem hat man mir die Schuld angehängt. Ich möchte nur wissen, was sich heute Nacht zugetragen hat, sonst nichts. Wie ich Monsieur Parisot schon erzählt habe, machte ich meine Runde. Und wann war das? Um 2 Uhr nachts. Als ich an die untere Säule kam, war das Mondlicht so hell, dass ich meine Lampe ausmachte. Es schien alles ganz normal zu sein. Da plötzlich sah ich es. Was? Das Gespenst. Da stand es. 2 Meter hinter der alten Götterstatue. Was haben Sie gemacht? Ich habe geschossen. Ja. Und jetzt kommt das Unheimlichste. Es ist unmöglich, dass ich aus der Entfernung wenigstens einmal treffe. Es hat sich nicht bewegt.
Und dann?
Und dann? Adieu, Marie.
Was soll das heißen?
Es war verschwunden. Goutrey.
Machen Sie sich wirklich lustig.
Was ist denn hier passiert? Nicht mehr wiederzuerkennen. Disneyland.
Also ich arbeite nicht mehr nachts. Ich habe
Thank you. A slightly different situation is shown by the following two examples. Both in Albert Levine's black and white film The Picture of Dorian Gray and in William Dieterle's black and white film Jenny, Portrait of a Love, both from 1948, contain short color sequences where the protagonist painting play a decisive role. These color insets are necessary to demonstrate in the films the celebrated beauty of the people depicted in their paintings. In the novel by Oscar Wilde and a cinematic adaptation, the confidence in the immutability of the original of a painting is first shattered and in the end re-established as a prerequisite for the place of the paintings to convey an idea of permanence in the ever-changing images of the film, and, beyond that, of cultural change at all. I'll come back to that. This enrichment of the mere black and white film by opulent color sequences is of particular importance here, and I'll come back also to that later under the keyword of culture of enrichment. It is obvious that even before future color films more and more often thematize picture galleries, the represented beauty of the pictures, if they become the subject of the film, presuppose the use of color.
Eines Tages werde ich alt sein und das Bild dort bleibt ewig dasselbe. Wenn es doch umgekehrt wäre, wenn ich immer jung bleiben könnte und das Bild dafür alt wird. So unbeschreiblich der Zustand des Bildes auch war, Lisi konnte es immer noch als sein Werk erkennen. Die entsetzlichen Zerstörungen kamen offensichtlich von innen heraus. Es schien, als hätte eine Art Aussatz das Bild zerfressen. Lisi konnte es nicht fassen, dass er einst dieses Porträt gemalt hatte. Und dort stand sein Name noch genauso darauf, wie er ihn einmal mit eigener Hand niedergeschrieben hatte.
Portrait? Jenny, isn't she beautiful? I wonder if she's real. Oh, she must have been. Well, what does it matter? She was real to him, or she couldn't look so alive.
How very wise you are.
Oh, heaven, is it really me? I think someday it will hang in a museum, and people will come from all over the world to see it.
Impossible that picture could be black and white in the end. It has to be in color and it has to be beautiful. Bernardo Bertolucci, in his, of course, color film, The Dreamers of 2003, not only quoted the notorious race in the corridors of the Louvre, but also literally repeated the famous sequence from Jean-Luc Godard's black and white film Bonaparte from 1964. As a quote and tribute to Godard, he has inserted black and white parts from Godard's sequence into his film. In this case, it's not about the paintings in the Louvre, but about their disregard by the revolting young people which Bertolucci can emphasize through the grey images from Godard's film. The feature is now the brief absence of color in the picture gallery. Okay, thank you. As causes for this development, which amounts to a veritable symbiosis between cinema, film, and picture gallery, the following factors could play a decisive role. The color film has become, since the 1960s, a standard, and large widescreen film formats up to CinemaScope and VistaVision contribute to the new opulence of the movie images in the movie theater. The film now can put itself in the history of the great paintings and is about to outdo them with its sounding motion picture, at least in the context of popular culture. Film is no longer a kind of art, but is included in art history by incorporating the recognized images of institutionalized art. In the competition to television and to home video, which both threaten to pull spectators out of the movie theaters, the film on the screen has the opacity of its colorful giant formats ahead of the little gray images of television. I speak, of course, of the 1960s. Things have changed in the meantime. At the same time, however, the movie theater loses its privilege being a theater and moving picture gallery, and also as favored location for the reception of movies. Films reappear in many new places, including picture galleries and art museums, where they become, as mechanical analog, electronic, and finally, digital media, inherent part of educational picture programs. As additional information and as elements of art installations. Outside the cinema, films are found on the tiny monitors of new mobile media. A significant example for that is the transformation and disseminative movement of a feature original made exclusively for the movie theater, such as Hitchcock's Psycho from 1916, black and white. First, of course, Psycho was broadcasted, of course, in early television and later offered on electronic and digital media, and in our days streamed on the internet. Its adaptation by Gordon Douglas for his art installation 24 Hours Psycho, an electronic stretch of the film to 24 hours of video shown in special art spaces, finally was literally quoted by Don DeLille in his novel Point Omega from 2010 as a media event and perceptual experience. So the film walks through the media and is not only fixated on the cinema anymore, but is omnipresent. And also the opposite movement takes place. The video installation Manifesto by Julian Rosfeld shows on 12 screens, arranged like panels in an art gallery, the actress Cate Blanchett in 12 different roles and situations motivated by different art manifests, also the Communist Manifest. The observer moves from a digitally projected image to the next without a fixed direction. At the same time, he or she can simultaneously perceive the entire arrangement of the moving pictures around him or her. This installation is now to be seen as a movie, with appropriate adjustments in the film theater. Repetitions create connections between the individual situations and provide a kind of cinematic continuity of the presentation. In the cinema, The motionless viewer has only one big moving picture on the screen in front of him, which contains all the other 12 sequences in the same film. What was simultaneously in the installation follows now successively in the movie. Cinema and art museum became interchangeable in the era of the visual arts. People are already talking about the change of the cinema into a museum. In Berlin, the Berlin Kunstzeitung, for instance, asks, is the future of the cinema in the museum? Sure. The German-French cultural channel Arte, however, brings the filmed art museum to the television. The program announcement states, I quote, Arte Trips is a series of immersive experiences that takes you into masterpieces of art. 360-degree technology conveys the experience art as virtual reality, unquote. La Cinémathèque Française, the French Film Museum in Paris, proposed this summer a film program under the headline called Le Cinéma va au musée. The Museum for Films shows films including museums. On television, and even more in the cinema, the audiences virtually will film themselves again in the art gallery or museum. The interface for the product range of culture is the event. Here, film and cinema, as well as painting and art gallery, come together. It is the eventfulness of their presentation and reception that structurally connects them. Films acquire their value and their price at the box office, after proceeding from one of the glamorous major or worldwide thousands of smaller film festivals into the cinema or television programs. And art, offered as event, assembles huge crowds of people in the galleries and museums in front of the exhibits of famous paintings or of the art history. Movies, like the paintings of art history, no longer have a fixed place. Films do not need the cinema anymore, and neither do the pictures in the art museums, which more or less serves as an archive and transit station of objects for art events around the world. Currently, all images, still and moving, are available side by side and together on the internet. They can be copied and retrieved via smartphone and other digital equipment. The fact that the originals of paintings are, with their materiality, bulky objects of the reality, only matters when they are exhibited or used as a matrix for their photographic duplication. As an investment, paintings tend to become invisible. Despite the omnipresent availability of paintings as their images on postcards, on books, or on displays, art museums are celebrated as places where the past enriches the present with the brush stroke of its original paintings. In film theaters, the projection of the big movies and blockbusters is suitable to produce similar feelings even more when its opulent image and sound space is used for the event encounter of the arts. On the giant screens of the film theaters, alternate frequently live broadcasted operas, ballets, and theater performances with virtual visits to famous art galleries. What is in the new media only information on a few centimeters display becomes in the cinema an artistic experience of the current art scene. The magic of the original and its myth of the brushstroke on the canvas is being transferred to the products of our popular culture, analog or digital, which is being enriched by this means, like the cinema in its films, by art galleries or on the book covers of detective stories showing parts of classical paintings, and so on. The cinema has always been a, of course, dark place for secret meetings of lovers. Currently, the picture gallery seems to replace the cinema in this capacity for offering dating services for galleries and museums in culturally demanding surroundings. That's why the dating portals of the internet are felt as too impersonal. Movies, on the other hand, tell in the cinema what can happen between lovers in the picture gallery, which has also become the scene of conspirationally meetings of gangsters or their persecutors like James Bond. Why should they meet just in a picture gallery if this place did not offer additional meanings? The reasons is the improvement of a popular genre in a mass medium of today by a classical surrounding with a touch of a precious past. Here you have examples by Jean-Pierre Melville, Tom Tykwer, or in the Bond film Skyfall by Sam Mendes.
Krankenhäuser und Kliniken wird die Polizei alle genau unter die Lupe nehmen. Sie wissen, dass es einen Verwundeten gegeben hat. Wir müssen Max schnellstens hier rausholen. Und wenn wir das nicht schaffen, dann weiß ich auch eine Lösung.
Gefällt Ihnen das Gemälde?
Mir gefällt die Agonie daran.
Warum?
Sie entspricht der Realität. Warum bin ich hier?
Umberto Calvini hat Sie aus dem Geschäft verabschiedet. Ihr Auftraggeber möchte Sie dafür gewinnen, als Problemlöser zu fungieren.
Wenn Calvini sich weigert weiterzumachen, wüsste ich nicht, was meine Beteiligung bewirken sollte.
Durch Ihre Beteiligung würde man an Calvinis Söhne herankommen, die beide sehr viel aufgeschlossener sind. Die Einzelheiten finden Sie in der Datei.
Sie hören von mir, wenn die Verhandlungen angelaufen sind.
Das macht mich immer ein wenig melancholisch. Ein stolzes, altes Schlachtschiff wird schmachvoll auf den Schrott geschleppt. Die Unabwendbarkeit der Zeit, nicht wahr? Was sehen Sie?
Ein Schiff und noch ein Schiff. Entschuldigen Sie.
007. Ich bin Ihr neuer Quartiermeister.
Das ist jetzt ein Scherz, oder?
Warum? Weil ich keinen Laborkittel trage.
Weil bei Ihnen noch die Pickel sprießen.
Meine Hautbeschaffenheit ist wohl kaum relevant.
Ihre Kompetenz schon.
Alter ist keine Garantie für Effizienz.
Und Jugend ist keine Garantie für Innovation.
Lassen Sie es mich so formulieren. Ich richte im Pyjama am Laptop noch vor meiner ersten Tasse Earl Grey mehr Schaden an als Sie in einem Jahr Außeneinsatz.
Oh, wozu brauchen Sie mich dann?
Hin und wieder muss ein Abzug gedrückt.
Stop. Okay. Now, what does all this have to do with intermediality? The main question, most important question now. Answers to this question presuppose a change of perspective from film and painting as objects, hard and software, as well as cinema and picture gallery as institutions of art to their media properties, which can be compared in the context of intermediality only. It is about properties of spaces as meeting places and how individual viewers in the gallery or an audience in the cinema are arranged by the respective dispositive structures which determines their concrete relationship to the images of the gallery or the cinema. It is also about the media properties of the pictures exhibited in galleries on the one hand and projected in the cinema on the other. The picture gallery usually contains unique pictures, real objects and originals, which represent their special value as originals. From past to the present, they have remained almost identical, which in their reliable consistency seems to guarantee hold and security, indifference to all images that express change with their movement, which are also subject to permanent interventions. In their constancy, they deliver longings of permanence, which gives them special, often nostalgic attention. May I remind you of the above discussion of the pictures of Dorian Gray. Compared to these self-identical originals, the moving image of the film is based on differences. Series of single images projected on top of the other, each in top of the other, create a single, permanently changing overall picture. Its representation of movement is due to the differences between the individual images. Nothing unified, as in the painting, is peculiar to this image of movement. It rather consists of coded variants of its projected individual images. Additionally, the montage of sequences makes it to a compilation of different parts. A film, also in the context of art, is never an original, but always a constantly changing copy among many other copies of the film. In its reproduction in the moving image of the film, the painting naturally loses all its qualities of an original, unique object. It becomes an element of the film in the virtual occasion of a cinematographically represented picture gallery. Not only the images, but also the picture gallery and the film theater, as their perception or organizing dispositives or arrangements of seeing, are causes for intermedial comparisons. In the film theater, the gaze of the motionless viewer is focused on a single moving image. The space that surrounds him is the acoustic space of the film. He or she is normally not affected by the individual projected images, which only combine in their diaphanous overlay on the canvas to this one integral motion picture on the screen. In contrast, the dispositive of the picture gallery operates with individual images, whose contingency must first be relativized by the art historical classification, the subject, the authorship, and so on, and whose succession on the wall always remains variable, not at least dependent on the movement of the visitor, which can change the original order created by the hanging by moving in different directions and stopping in order to see and recognize single pictures individually and in context. Headphones can take the individual visitor to the acoustic line, but a cinema audience is situated in a common acoustic space for the outset. In this sense, the picture gallery is the dispositive reversal of the cinema. In the film, we see the represented gallery and its objects from the perspective of the visitors in movement, respectively from the perspective of the one privileged visitor, the film camera. In the film Russian Ark, for instance, 2002 by Alexander Sokurov, the camera follows a privileged visitor in a continuous, uninterrupted motion. As a film viewer, we see what they see and what is shown us this way. The representation of films in the television monitor and even the displays of original media, which themselves have no fixed location and which are in constant motion with their users, continues aesthetically to be dominated by the cinema dispositives. They show often Hollywood films made for the cinema, but on the small display. And in the same way, the other dispositive of the gallery is inserted traditionally into the monitor image. However, other methods have also been conceived and are used for the digital films in which the dispositives of cinema and gallery merge, are interlinked, and dissolve in common pictorial spaces. They are really films for the new digital era. An interesting example of the almost seamless mixing of image spaces is Steven Spielberg's film Ready Player One from 2018. In this case, the inserted image space is the cinema itself. The plot of the film continues, it's a game. The whole is a game, and the game continues by entering into the cinema. The plot of the film continues in a movie theater where it seamlessly transitions into the film. It's Kubrick's film Shining, which is being shown there. As a movie, Ready Player One remains based on the big screen of the cinema. Its video game aesthetics make it seem suitable for all kinds of mobile media displays. Traditionally, the gallery presents a similar, albeit reverse, perception of cinema in film. Cinema repeats itself in the cinematic gallery as another form of image perception. Both are closely related. With Raymond Bellour, one could say, the showing of a museum is always an important moment of truth in all films, as if it is a way by which film can reflect on itself. You see the close interlink between gallery and cinema. My last point is picture galleries in film as an expression of an economy and culture of enrichment. I would like to return to the beginning of my talk and the question, why only since the mid-1960s art galleries and art museums appear as scenes of action in film? High-resolution color films and large formats on giant screens have increased the opulence of film projections to such an extent that films in the cinema and fine art paintings can encounter at eye level. What the film and the cinema, however, must still miss is the aura. That is an essential ingredient of the paintings because of their history, the cultural importance, their value of objects, of collections, and so on. An original painting exists only once, and this is the fact from which derives its special value and often its horrendous price. Films are also expensive, and the production of a blockbuster Hollywood film can currently cost between $300,000 and $400,000. $1 million. $300,000 or $400 million. And so they find themselves on the same level with the prices for the most expensive paintings in the world. For instance, the Leonardo da Vinci attributed painting Salvator Mundi, which has recently been sold for $450 million. While the value of a painting is at least created as a product of craft work, but it's not created as a product of craft work, but as a collector's item. What finally determines the price? The production of the film is expensive, but its value is only realized by the proceeds of the individual copies at the box office, where not the film, but its temporary use is sold. This also applies to the purchase of a DVD, for instance. You own the hardware, this silver disc. The software remains reserved to its producer. Das heißt, you will never own a film if you have a film on this DVD disc. The price of a painting realizes its current value. The price that is payable at the box office for a film hardly corresponds to the reality of $400 million production costs, which are to be amortized by millions of spectators. The fact that films normally circulate in many hundreds of copies in different language versions, and the number of legal DVD copies, which is barely to be overlooked, can only be compared to the dissemination of photographic images of paintings, for example, on postcards, on books, or magazines. The film is and remains, like photography, an illegitimate art, and has every cause to decorate itself with a classical art in galleries. However, this strategy presupposes the film theater as a special location, with its traditional structure and atmosphere, where the opulent film, along with often live broadcasts of famous opera, theater, and concert performances, is becoming a popular luxury item, where its higher cultural value can justify a higher admission charge. As a stream from the internet or download from YouTube, the film meets the level of the images of paintings on postcards, where a low price hardly points to a higher cultural value. Only the frankly published story of the $1 million production costs of a film and the price of millions of dollars for a painting that was fixed at an art auction as public event should remind us that these could also be cultural values. Luc Boltanski and Arnaud Esquire have recently spoken of a changing capitalist economy developing between the 1960s to the 1980s. And this is also the period when picture galleries first appeared in movies. This economy no longer determines the value of things primarily from their production as a utility value, but from the enrichment of existing things that generates their value. What counts now is the value, for instance, as collector's items, or the enrichment with narratives that give them a past, a special meaning, and a nostalgic aura. That's how the actually outdated iPhone 4 has become trendy today. New jeans are sold with signs of use, with cracks and slices, that give them a past, but not a higher utility value. Advertising is the privileged place where things are enriched by appropriating traditions or exploiting the past. Picture galleries work in the movie like the product placement, except that in this case the place is the product. It makes sense to describe the appearance of picture galleries in films as such an enrichment strategy that makes the movies more valuable, increasing their opulence, and by justifying a higher price at the box office. In fact, this cultural enrichment and self-promotion, not only of films but of things in general with commodity character, uses a, I quote, profound act of revaluation with which also worthless waste can become valuable objects, Boltanski. The cinema and film industry join into the boom of major art exhibitions to participate in it. They adorn themselves with borrowed plums, with a past they do not have, that is classical art history. The economy of enrichment is based on the repetition of which the film industry also lives by repeating itself in endless remakes and exploiting the rest of cultural production, that is literature, music, painting, and so on. Everything can become enriched, repeatable, and therefore usable in different contexts in favor of a capitalist economy. Recently, the appearance of picture galleries in films also reached the production of series, which are a privileged expression of the economy of enrichment themselves. Belphegor, the black and white series of the Phantom in the catacombs of the Louvre in the 1960s, has once been promoted as a single spectacular soft horror color film, playing in the bright picture galleries of the Louvre. In a new series with the title The Art of Crime, produced for the French television in 2017, the killing and the solving of crimes takes place not in the mean streets of the suburbs of Paris anymore, but in the holy halls of the Louvre. Also, crimes benefit of an enrichment that provides them with a great cultural past invaluable environments. So, thank you very much.